I'm getting something on the distress channel.
Under the neutral zone in 1 minute, Captain.
Now entering the neutral zone.
Welcome back to the Neutral Zone. This is your host, Josh, with his pal, John. John, how's it going? Welcome to the Neutral Zone.
You know, it's going well. I'm so glad because we have so much time travel going on now in Star Trek Discovery. That helps us out because maybe we could also have, like, our show could go on for eternity because there is no time.
Yeah, time travel.
Yeah.
I'm super pumped about the time travel that they put into the show.
Well, I think we're going to hit a lot of different things today, but basically, you know, we're talking about Episode 7, Light and Shadows, and, you know, I think overall, again, we tend to lean positive toward Discovery. I thought this was a really fun episode. It moved very well, partially because, as we count here, they had 5 different stories running at once in what was surprisingly like a 39-minute episode this week.
Yeah, it was 40 minutes, just a little over 40-minute mark. So what are the 5 plot points that happened this week? We found Spock finally. Burnham, Spock, Amanda, and Sarek. So we saw that. Then there was the Pike Ash shuttlecraft dealy with the time travel business. And then what?
Engineering, they had Stamets and Tilly working on finding Pike and Ash, and then we had Saru on the bridge working with his team there, along with Lieutenant Ariam, I believe that's how her name is pronounced. And then
is she some kind of robot or something? What is she?
I think she's a cyborg. I think she's human that has a lot of implants, but not the type of implants we think of today. But in the future, they're different. And then we had the Section 31 with Giorgio and Captain Leland, which Section 31 plays in. So basically, 5 different stories were playing out, and when they brought Ashvok back onto the show, I wasn't happy about it. I don't like the guy. He's a Klingon. He's killed people. There's been a lot of unanswered questions. Yet somehow they've made him very interesting, and I like the fact that Pike doesn't trust him. So I thought this whole shuttle thing was very cool. It kind of reminded me. You remember back in the Next Generation when Wesley was stuck with Picard on a shuttle once? And
yeah. There's an Enterprise episode too with the weapons officer and the engineer. Yeah. So I think I think it's kind of cool to have the antagonism between the two guys, and the sort of reason that Pike doesn't hold back. It's like you killed one of the crewmen on the ship. Like, that's why I don't like you.
Let's call the good writing when it happens. When he said something along the line that the Vok is still with me, or there's nothing I can do about Vok being with me, and Pike said something like, "Yeah, right. That's how I feel too." Like, okay, there you go.
Right.
So, but at the end, it turned out pretty cool, because it turned out that we found that basically Ash saves Pike's life. He counts it to him, and there seems to be a little bit better of a bond between them. So. The shuttle stuff was interesting. We're obviously going to need to talk about some of the things that happened in the shuttle, because there's some time-related issues we want to discuss. But I thought that was kind of nice. There wasn't a whole lot to the Stamets Tilly working on the problem thing. It was just enough Tilly that I could tolerate.
Like, my issue with the show is I always get nervous anytime Star Trek brings time travel in, because, I mean, except for maybe Star Trek 4, they didn't really do it right. Star Trek 4, they make that joke about the transparent aluminum. How do you know he didn't invent the thing? Which is, you don't really know. And they bring the lady back, and there's no really real repercussions,
And the reason we're bringing this up is because in the shuttle, during the shuttle scenes, the probe has been modified in the future, and they determined, for however they figured it out, 500 years in the future. So that would put them in the 28th century, around 27 something or another. And I was looking up in the Star Trek Memory Alpha stuff, that is when the Suliban were doing things, as well as some other things. So it's interesting they picked that, and it's funny because there's a reality and a science fiction part to this time travel. The science fiction part is you have to play around with messing up the future, And the reality with your television show is you could ruin your franchise because people like us keep such close track. And this is something I think most of the Star Trek blogs that don't like Discovery, and I have to say I kind of agree with them. One of the reasons they don't is they get very frustrated that these writers seem to just randomly just do this crazy stuff and think that we don't care, we're not paying that much attention. Star Trek fans pay very close attention. We pull up our websites and we know what's going on.
John, Back to the Future made us pay attention to the issues of time travel. I mean, Doctor Who, isn't he a Time Lord?
I know, yeah.
Doctor Who's been doing time travel forever, and nobody really questions him. But I mean, when Back to the Future came out in 84,
Right.
85, whenever that was, it made us pay attention because the whole thing is Marty went back and almost annihilated himself.
And you have this there's
just so many ways to mess up time travel. And I don't think it's necessary.
Yeah.
I think that there's plenty of interesting plot things. I think the mirror universe is interesting. I think parallel universes are interesting. But why Star Trek gets so obsessed? They did a good job in First Contact. Of course, you don't really know the repercussions of First Contact, but it's just why they get so obsessed with time travel. I just don't understand that.
Let's go back and go back and be orthodox for a moment to the original series. They didn't go back in time to do what I refer to as the Nazi episode. They found a planet they had messed up with the books. They didn't go back in time to do a piece of the action with the 30s gangsters. It was a planet that got screwed up in their cultural development, and there was different. Well, the classic one where Kirk is the gladiator and has the gladiator fight on 20th century television. Again, they found planets that were in different time, relevant that we could relate to. They didn't have to time travel to them. They just would find, hey, look, here's 20th century Earth, or here's 16th,
here's a Nazi planet.
Yeah.
Here's a planet full of Nazis.
And it was fun. It was fun in the sense that they had to get in costume and they were trying again, and we're not going to interfere with the culture, but we are going to interfere with your culture. And that was what was fun. There is a bigger problem when you screw around with time, as we all know because we do it all the time, that you can't do that. And you've got 6 franchises that are all intertwined together. It's just dangerous. I wish the writers would. I think the writers think that we like it. It's like, no, you don't have to go back in actual time to give us what we want. You can find other planets.
No,
and do other
I don't think they think we like it. I think that they're trying to do it. I think that they're trying to do it right.
Oh, they're trying to fix everything.
We'll show you. We'll get our time travel right, whereas everybody else got it wrong.
Right.
I really think that that's what they're trying to do. I don't know of one Star Trek fans what we need more of in Star Trek is time travel.
Yeah, the other parts of the show, I thought, they had the bridge with Saru. It was fairly calm, although we have to talk about Lieutenant Aram, that apparently in the last section of the show, that alien probe from the Matrix, as I'm calling it, is downloading all the information and apparently somehow links into her. She paired up with her wireless, and then she's now got something going on. So now we got another character who's got something going on. We don't know what that's going to drag out for the next 7 episodes. Could be interesting. We don't know much about her character, and I like this. This is the kind of stuff Star Trek fans do like, is when there's a hostile takeover of a computer. We love that kind of stuff. So it'll be interesting to see how this goes. So they threw that in. But I did want to ask you a little bit about Section 31. They had a big role in this one. We find out that Captain Leland, it seems like he's a nice guy. He's kind of like, those carpet salesmen that you think is a nice guy at first until he tries to demand that you do something. He apparently is the guy who had some responsibility in killing Burnham's parents. That's going to be an interesting reveal at some point, I guess.
Yeah, I honestly didn't even. I caught it.
Yeah.
But it didn't I didn't catch it until you brought it up before we started the broadcast. So I don't even know what to make of all that.
And Giorgio's holding him kind of hostage, if you will. It's basically, I'm going to blackmail you because I know this information about you. I'm still interested. I love how they're playing her. I'm still wondering, Josh, if the ultimate thing on this, and remember, Star Trek is supposed to be coming off with a spin-off series with her. Is this whole thing, does she have a line, some kind of way that she's going to try to get back to the Terran universe, and that's her ultimate play with all of this?
I don't get that feeling, but I think she's an interesting character. Like the fact that she killed her own mother, I think is kind of like I would have liked to have heard more about that.
Yeah,
I think she's an interesting character. I thought the usual universe, the normal universe, Georgiou was a good character too.
I would have liked to see more.
She was the kind of captain I'd like to get to know a little bit. But so it's nice. It's nice, again, perhaps this is what I was saying before, is that I'm not getting this opinion. I think it was Trexpertise, which I've mentioned here before a few times, but like they just haven't gotten the right bad guy since Khan, except for Gul Dukat, and for different reasons. And maybe they're just trying to do like a Khan type thing with her. We'll show you. We'll get a villain that you'll like just as much as Khan. It's like it's like you don't have to do that. But they made her a little bit more mustache twisting in this episode, like, I've killed my mother, and I'm going to hold this over you, and go ahead and fight me.
The little
Michael Burnham.
A couple of episodes ago, the snake comment with that was nice. I enjoyed that. Well, we got a few minutes left, and we have to get into. There's not a lot we can talk about Spock, other than he's there, and Spock has issues, and apparently he's dyslexic, which is interesting. And I thought the interplay between Sarek and Amanda was really nicely written. Now, again, the hardcore Star Trek fan like myself say, well, I don't know any of this, but I thought just from a writing standpoint, the fact that Spock had some issues, that the Vulcan teachers ignored him because there was a racist thing going on, that was interesting. I thought that was some neat writing. But otherwise, Spock's got some issues, and we're still sorting through those.
He's very mumbly. He's very mumbly this episode.
Very, very mumbly. Not so.
I thought, honestly, you know what I thought? The numbers were all backwards that Burnham found Telos for. I thought maybe it was backwards because he was the Mirror Universe Spock. That was my first thought about that.
That would make sense. And he's got the beard.
Here's my question, and I think this is what we should kind of end on.
Yes, we got a lot to talk about on this one.
Yeah, I love the Telosians. I saw the preview for next week.
I know you're always hanging out with them. When you have a weekend free.
Yeah, they're going to Telos 4, which of course, for those of you who are listening, you're probably nerds enough to know that was the big-headed characters in the pilot, the cage,
buttheads, literally.
Yeah, and so they're going back, and it's interesting. I saw the preview for next week, and they make the Telosians look like the guy off of the Orville. I don't know if that was
I did kind of think that when I saw them. I thought, okay, yeah. So
here's my only question, and I don't know if it's relevant or what, but so Spock knows about Telos 4. He's going there for a reason, probably because they're going to unlock his brain or something like that. Does that mean that this whole thing happened after the cage happened?
Well,
because why? I mean, because Spock seems super surprised about Telos 4 in the cage.
Yes,
and so he talks like this, and does the thing with the with the view screen, and so I mean, has Pike already gone through the cage here? And when he goes to Telos 4, is he gonna be like, hey, where's that blonde girl that was all deformed? Yeah.
Well, I did a little research before we got on, because Neutral Zone Chat, we actually check things and make sure we know what we're talking about at least half the time. And this is what I was surprised too, because I had heard in some of the before the season began, they were going to do something near the end about Talos 4, which I figured, okay, the timeline is they're about 10 years before Kirk and Spock, so it's about time for Pike to go visit Talos 4. So I thought, okay, this might be how they'll, hey, we're going off to, find Talos 4, and that's how the season would end. So what we know is, so I was surprised when it popped up Talos 4, because my first thing, I'm like, here we go, we're going to start screwing around with canon again. So in the Talos 4 cage episode, the Enterprise with Captain Pike and Spock there pick up a signal that that an Earth ship had crashed on Talos 4, and it had been there 18 years. So that means Vina, who we all know if you've watched it, and if you don't, you need to see it, but there's only one survivor of that crash, and it's this girl Vina that the Telosians make into, this hot girl. And so we're 10 years out from Kirk and Spock, according to the timeline. So Vina should be on Talos 4. If they're going to Talos 4, she should be there. She should have been there already by like 5 or 6 years. So according to my timeline, we're still before before Pike getting to Talos 4 in the cage. So how this fits in, I don't know. It's because there's just unless they come around and say, there's a scene next week or something where Pike finds out he's gone to Talos 4 and he says, "What's Spock doing?" But I don't know. The timeline to me suggests that they're going to Talos 4 for the first time. Obviously, Burnham had never heard of it. So,
I guess we're gonna have to find out, because I think it's odd that they're going to Talos 4 before the cage. I mean, in the cage they didn't. It seemed like they'd never been there before.
And how do you reconcile that? How do you reconcile that with Spock? Now, granted, they could visit this planet at that point in time and do something, but then it doesn't make sense for Spock in the cage to act like he's never been there or say, "Hey, we shouldn't go there." So there's some holes here, and so unless they're just like going to do some kind of brain surgery on him, or maybe they're also going to do something with Burnham that resets the clock. I am wondering, and then how that ties in with the Red Angel, I don't know. The Red Angel's out there. The Red Angel directed Spock, I'm assuming, to go to Talos 4. But I don't think that's a Talos 4 resident in the Red Angel suits. They're opening up a lot of cans here that I don't know where they're going with it, which doesn't mean it's bad. It's just it's certainly not predictable at all. But I don't know where they're going with any of this, because there's a lot of stuff going on. And then, maybe if our listeners and viewers have gotten this far, they could leave a comment as to what they think about that sort of thing. So I just don't know. I just thought I'd bring it up because, I mean, I'm a moderate to heavy Star Trek fan. I know lots about the show. Sometimes I forget character names, but there are way nerdier guys than us out there, John. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Who are going to pull that sort of thing apart and not find that sort of thing acceptable if they go to Talos 4 and then be like, "Oh yeah, that's right. We're going to be there 10 years from now." Comic book guy, worst episode ever, that kind of thing,
Yeah, I was thinking today when I was pondering these things, which is why, I have, time on my hands, and I thought, well, are they going to do something now that we're introducing the guy who killed Michael Burnham's parents? Are you going to go back in time and do something where Michael Burnham's parents are not killed, therefore she doesn't become Spock's foster brother, therefore that recorrects the timeline? And it's like, okay, that's clever, but you're just getting into the weeds. This is not what we want to do in Star Trek. I don't want to.
It's a little bit Who Shot Jr.
I don't want to sit back and I don't. And this is the reason I didn't like. And I mentioned it earlier, why I didn't like them resurrecting the Doctor in Discovery is it discredits the episodes that we have been dealing with the grief of his loss. And when you just suddenly like, poof, oh no, he's back now, you just ruined that story. And a couple of people asked me, well, John, how did you feel when they killed Spock in Star Trek 2? Were you not happy when they brought him back in 3? And I'm like, honestly, yes, I wasn't happy. I thought he's dead, and to bring him back just kind of shows that science fiction has to be based in some reality. And if we keep just, oh yeah, we like this character, we're going to bring him back to life, that throws out the reality that.
Of course, the Marvel movies have the same problem. How many times has Loki been killed?
Well, half the Avengers crew is dead at this point, so they're all going to come back. My son looked at me, and I looked at him as in a fatherly look, and I said, "Do you really think they're going to shut down the franchise?" That's how I respond when people ask me that. Do you think they're going to shut down the franchise and the toy sales? No, they'll all be back.
Well, I think this has been an interesting discussion. Clearly this is a neutral zone, so we're able to look at both the good parts and the bad parts of this season of Discovery. So I just think it's interesting for us to look at it and to sort of talk about it, and we want to hear what you have to say out in the universe.
Well, final word, Josh. Would you say? I actually think this was one of the best episodes of Discovery. I'd put it up there as one or two.
It was great. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed every part of it, but the time travel.
So I'm saying this was a great episode, and if we're going to see more now that the showrunners have switched over, that was the first episode, and we're going to see some new things. The new showrunner for next year's episode comes up, episode 9, in 2 weeks, and that's the one directed by Jonathan Frakes. So I'm excited about that. That could be a really massive episode coming up.
All right, everybody. Well, I'm glad you could join us here in the Neutral Zone. Come join us next week when we talk about episode 8. And thank you. And John, live long and prosper.
You too.